are again. This is day whatever of quarantine. I have lost my mind. But today we are here today to talk about drugs again and how they affect the brain chemistry and the equilibrium of your brain. Okay, so last video we talked about the basic drugs, the basic opioids, heroin, morphine, oxycontin, Vicodin, all the extreme painkillers, and we talked about how highly addictive they were. And so today we're going to talk about how those highly addictive substances affect your brain. Okay, so to get right into it, in your brain you have neurotransmitters, and here I'll draw something. It's like a square. It's a square. And then in your brain you have a receptor where the square can go into. And when that square goes into its slot, your brain sends a message, and that message is either pain, joy, sadness. It's any emotion, mostly pain though. And so what happens is when you're taking painkillers such as morphine mimics the neurotransmitter. And so now this is morphine. It does the exact same thing, but from now on it's going to bind to this receptor site. And the brain has millions of receptor sites. But now this neurotransmitter is no longer in use because it is being blocked off by morphine. And so morphine binds to the receptor site and it blocks pain. And that sounds good, and it is good in small doses and for a little bit. But once you start to use morphine more, your body no longer creates the neurotransmitter that that transmits pain. And so now your body has less of the neurotransmitter, and when you have to get off the drug, you still don't have it, and your body has to go into overtime making it, and you experience the symptoms of withdrawal. So according to Verywell Mind, which is like a site for a bunch of doctors, is neurotransmitters specifically act on certain receptor sites. So only certain neurotransmitters can go to certain receptor sites. And so opioids work by binding to the receptors and not letting the neurotransmitters get to the receptors. And they can bind in your brain, spinal cord, and stomach, and just any other receptor sites. And according to Michael's house, your brain chemistry is completely rewired once you are on morphine or any other painkiller. And once the neurotransmitters aren't able to get to their receptor site, your brain is just rewired and you become addicted. And then according to nature.com, there are the neurotransmitters only can go to certain receptor sites, like I said earlier, but so can morphine. So morphine only can go to certain receptor sites. They can't go to all of them and block it off. They can only go to certain ones, which is pain. And so once they bind to pain, then your body you can't make any more neurotransmitters. And so right now your brain is just regular, no morphine, no drugs. And once the brain starts to I can't talk right now. So as we talked about earlier in the year, or right before we went into quarantine, is we were talking about equilibrium. And so the brain, when it's not on drugs, is usually on a equilibrium. It's like equilibrium. It's doing its job, and everything is pretty much equal, unless you have some sort of mental disorder. But when you go on drugs, the equilibrium is completely thrown off. It's completely broken. There's no longer neurotransmitters, as I keep saying. And those neurotransmitters play a vital role in your brain chemistry. And once your brain chemistry is all out of whack, you're completely all out of whack. So, as Michael's house said earlier, your brain gets rewired. And so, now all these drugs are pulling on your brain this way, and it's creating like different sleep patterns. Your breathing is shallow. You're having all these sensations, and your body gets addicted. And so, when you're taking opioids, your brain chemistry is completely rewired, the equilibrium is completely thrown off, and the only way to return to that equilibrium is to get off the drugs. through that painstaking process of withdrawal. And withdrawal is probably, I've heard, like the most horrible thing ever, because your body is depleted of all those neurotransmitters that are necessary to carry out daily functions. And without them, you're just in so much pain. And so, when you take the morphine, neurotransmitters are diminished. And you have to slowly build up your neurotransmitters again. Alright, and so that's it for today. Next video, we're going to be talking about withdrawal and what we can do more to stop this opioid epidemic. Alright, see you guys later.